For the start of this walk, we've parked up in the little hamlet of Sandwick, which is just down from Martindale. Ullswater behind the trees and Howtown to the right, and we're heading up towards Place Fell. Now, the intention isn't actually to go and do the summit of Place Fell this evening, but I want to go and have a look at a couple of lower tops. One's called High Dodd and the other is called Birk Fell. Now, Birk Fell was one of those names that Wainwright put on his original list, and it's not the Birk Fell which is used on other lists. So I just want to go up and have a look. It's now 6:30 on a early July evening, and it's warm, it's very calm, there's nobody about. We'll see how far we get. My intention is just to have a very pleasant summer's evening walk out. You can see the path that comes up for the village, and in fact this would be part of the Ullswater Way, but we're not going to carry on that path. We're going to head up this path that leads through the bracken, up past that rowan tree, and then it will get us higher on the side of Place Fell than this normal Ullswater Way path. There's quite a bit of high bracken, but the path is well defined, so it shouldn't be any problem at all. And then all of a sudden you come to a memorial seat, peg seat. What a view! Well, if you're going to have a seat somewhere, that's not a bad place for it. Looking down or to the bottom end of Ullswater and Hallin Fell. Lovely. And the plan of action from here is we're going to take this sloping ascending path to the right of this rise here, which is the northern end of Sleep Fell, which leads then on to the ridge of High Dodd. Once we get to High Dodd summit, we're going to cut down and across to that far hill, which is in the V of the valley there, which is Bleaberry Knott, which is part of Birk Fell. Complicated, but that's how it is. And then come down onto this lower top, on which you can see a nice cairn. That's Low Birk Fell. Then the plan is we'll cut down probably to the left as we're looking at it here, and then back down the valley and back along the Ullswater shore down into Sandwick. Hopefully the weather stays as good as this, which I'm sure it will. Listen to that cuckoo. Beautiful. And nobody about. That's the advantage of walking at this time of the evening. And this is the remains of the wall that comes up onto Sleep Fell. It's marked on the OS map. I've no idea if it's in the revised pictorial guides or wherever, but as it is on the OS map, it's a good guidance if you're looking at doing this route in bad weather. But the footpath is, you can see it, but it's not very well defined. It's just tramped down grass most of the way. Lovely to walk on, and again, I've no idea if this route is in the pictorial guides or the Rise pictorial guides, but at the minute I'm making my own routes up anyway, exploring new places, and it's just lovely to come out and look at the map first and see where I want to be. Wow! What a surprise when you get here. There is a cairn marked on the map, but I didn't think it would be this big. That's one big lump of rocks. Makes you wonder where they've all come from. Look at that view. Low Pot Hill down to Arthur's Pike, Highland Fell, Ullswater, and then right round. Lovely. Well, I've consulted the map, and where we're going to head now is onto High Dodd, which is the rise you can see in front of us there. There is a path that goes round to the left, and that's quite a well-defined path, but it would take us into the shadow, and I'd like to stay in the sun for as long as possible this evening. So I'll get up to this next rise, and I think I can go to the path which you can just about see on the right hand side on the slopes of High Dodd. Or if the bracken's not too high, what I might do is go a bit off-piste, as they say, and go up the ridge that you can see. Half of it's in shadow and half of it's in sun, and that'll be a direct route to the top of High Dodd. But we'll take it as it comes, see what it's like when we get there. As you can probably tell by the way my forehead is leaking and the stains on my t-shirt, it's still a rather warm evening. It's now 20 to 8, still a good hour, an hour or more of sunlight left, and we're going to head up to High Dodd. It is a very distinct path around the left hand side. It's like on a sloping terrace. Looks lovely, but as I say, it's just in shade, and I want to stay in the sun. So I'm going to go to the right, and I'm going to go up that shadowed edge that you can see leading up to the top of High Dodd. And from here I can see there's a couple of interesting looking rock pinnacles near the top, which might make a good photograph. Yeah, we'll go that way. And this is the bottom of that ridge. Now, there's no path here. There is the one that slopes down to the right, but I don't want to take that one. I'll go up here. There's a short section of bracken, which is still quite low at the minute, about 18 inches high, so it shouldn't be a problem. And then in a short while we're just on the ridge, which is looks like a nice grassy ascent to the top. It didn't take long to come up that ridge. It was nice. There was no sign of a footpath. A few little scrambly bits if you wanted them. Fantastic views. And now we're on almost to the summit of High Dodd. Place Fell summit I can see just over there. I'll show you to that in a minute. Absolutely glorious evening. And this will be the marked summit of High Dodd. There's plenty of stone lying around here to make a cairn, and you can see in fact that there was a substantial cairn here at one time, but that's now collapsed. Maybe someone will repair it. But even though the cairn is here, the highest point is just beyond us, another 50 metres or so to the south. But this cairn was probably here not to mark the highest point, but so that shepherds or people could see it from the valley bottom, because you can't see the actual summit from the valley itself. And that's why these cairns were sometimes placed not exactly on the highest point. But this is where it's marked on the map as a cairn. Maybe one day it will return. And then over there to the left, you can see right down that deep gorge gap is Kirkstone Pass with red screes on the right, away in the distance I mean. That's Placefell summit up to our right there. As you work round to the left, there's Cooldown Moor, and then another V which drops into Threshet Mouth and up to Thornthwaite Crag and other fells. You can see the top of the Nab here, and then behind it Ramskill Head and High Raise, and here just in front of us is Beda Fell. And the reason for my visit here is that High Dodd was one of those fells that Wainwright listed when he was thinking up the idea of the pictorial guides. And he considered it. He probably saw it on the 1-inch Ordnance Survey maps at the time, and it was marked as a measured height. And so he added it to his list. And for whatever reason, it didn't make the final cut for the Lakeland 214 that were featured in the pictorial guides. Now, considering that Placefell is way over there, and he gave, I think it was 12 pages to Placefell in the pictorial guides, but only 2 drawings. He could have split Placefell, but he would have split it into 3. Placefell itself, this one, High Dodd, and the one we're off to next, which he called Birk Fell. So this area of Placefell would have had 3 chapters. But he had enough fells for his second book, The Far Eastern Fells, which this is part of. And so he probably didn't include them, because in truth there's not an awful lot of interest just in this section of Placefell. Anyway, enough of the waffle. On to the next one. And just off the highest point of High Dodd itself, you come down, and there's a little worked area here, and someone's built a wall. But going by the cutout here, the hollow, and then just past it, quite a lot of spoil. It's obviously been used in the past as a worked area, a bit of quarry for stone, something like that anyway, but definitely man-made. For a very small quarry just on the side of the hill, there's an amazing amount of spoil, which shows that they didn't actually use much of the stone. There's a couple of sheepfolds around here and a hut or two, but there's an awful lot of man hours going in to make this pile of waste. We're coming down off High Dodd now, which you can see behind me, and then to my front is Placefell. But we're going to drop down to this col and then take the path that would lead us back down to Sandwick and the Ullswater shore path. But before we get down as far as that, we're going to branch off on another defined path to go up to Bleaberry Knott or Birk Fell. This is the old quarry hut that is alongside the path as you come down from the col. Placefell being up there, and we've come down from back up there at High Dodd, and this is the remains of the old quarry. Now I've had a bit of a change of plan. I could have gone up to Bleaberry Fell, but it's all the way up there, and I really want to go down here to Low Birk Fell, purely because I've never been there before, and I think it looks like a fabulous location for maybe a painting or a sketch or something. The other reason is I'm not in any hurry. I'm not on a bagging mission. I've no need to tick these things off in any great hurry. And in the dip in between here and Bleaberry Knott is a nice gully, and there are waterfalls in there, but at the minute it's been so dry I can hear water but I can't hear a big gush of water. So I'll wait until we've had a bit of rain. It doesn't matter when it is, could be autumn time or whenever, and I'll come back, have a look at the waterfalls and do Bleaberry Knott on that same trip. From here I'm going to have to do a bit of, I think I'll have to do a bit of cross-country walking directly onto that rise, that ridge that's in shadow there. So down a bit, up a bit, and onto the cairn at the top. Well, that was a nice little bonus. A small herd of about 10 young stags standing up behind us in the sunlight, just stood watching us. The Far Eastern Fells is a great place to see red deer. I'm amazed that more people don't see them, but you have to keep your eyes open and don't rush everywhere, just stop and look. Now, I don't claim to be a top-notch photographer, landscape photographer, but I do like a good scene, and I like to go somewhere different. And I've walked around, especially with this sun now setting low in the horizon, and I've come across this scene of Ullswater and this rowan tree clinging onto the rock with Hallin Fell behind it. It's not brilliant, you know, the light could be better and all this sort of stuff, but to stand here, look, there's not a breath of wind, nobody, me and the dog, to see that. Now, I'm just going to go up to the cairn, which I can see here on the very top of Little Birk Fell. And here we are. How's that with a cairn? Now, I've seen and painted some cairns in my time while out on the Lakeland Fells, but this is a good one. I certainly get marks for timing that right. Beautiful to see the sun go down on this cairn and Ullswater behind us. And now the sun has dipped right down and it's gone behind Blencathra, as you can see over there. Carrot Fell to the right. So I was able to do just a little couple of pencil sketches and just enjoy the evening. Then as soon as the sun had gone, midges came out. So the jumper's on, and it's now back down to Sandwick and the car. Shouldn't take long. In fact, you can see it just down there. Just need to get down into the gill and along the wall edge on the Ullswater way back to the car. Okay, and that's us back on the path that comes down from the coal off Place Fell. You can see up there on the skyline the cairn, and we came back on ourselves a bit and then down this gully, across a bit of boggy ground, across the river, back to the path. And then look at that. Very straightforward now, just follow this path, join the Ullswater shore path back to Sandwick. There is one disadvantage about walking at this time of the evening, is that when you come to a place like this, this is the Lowther barn on the Ullswater way, which I think has been put there since the Ullswater way was brought into use. It means that it's shut at this time of night. It's now actually, I think, 5 to 10, even though it's light enough for walking. But yeah, still good reason to come back, try some of their tea and cakes. Looks like a good spot. Meantime, back along the road. Well, that was a real bonus. I was just walking along this path and I happened to look over the wall and I saw a red deer about 50 yards away. Cuckoo just here. Anyway, as I was watching the deer, I was going to take a photo, and in between me and the deer were two badgers scrummaging around in the grass. So I've got a couple of photos. They won't be brilliant because it's getting quite dark now. So I'm heading this way and now I've got a cuckoo just here. It's like spring watch. Here. And this is it, we're back in Sandwick now. I know it's a bit dark so you can't see much, but trust me, we are. And that's the end of what was... And that's the end of really what was a pretty good evening walk. As I say, it's just after 10. We set up for 6:30, so it's like 3.5 hours. That's ages to do a short walk like that, but I do film and do a bit of sketching and stuff, and I sit and enjoy myself. So, I'm ready for a cup of tea.